I had my break and I was feeling all cocky halfway into the tour, and I was like, who wants to take a shot with me? Go meet me at the bar. And so I went down off the stage, and almost the whole crowd left the front
Oh no.
to go to the bar. So like, my bandmates were like, dude, everybody went back. Like, why did you say that?
Kyle, it's good to see you again. Exciting times. Xenotaph is almost here. How are you doing? Because this is obviously a different. It's still a roller coaster, but it's a different roller coaster for you this time around, I imagine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks for having me back, man. Yeah, it's been good. Like you said, it's things are busy right now. We're less than a month away from the album release, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is, I think last time we talked was kind of during the previous album cycle, right? For our last album, Empyrean. That was my first record with the band. This is my second one. But yeah, things are different in many ways. Like, I'm no longer the brand new guy, which has changed the process quite a bit. So for me, like, this is the first album that I've been able to get involved with, like, from the very beginning of the writing process, as opposed to like joining to help finish an album that was already in progress, So this, I feel very much like it's even though it's my second Fallujah album, it's like the first
Real one.
album. That makes sense, Yeah,
For sure. Well, I mean, you definitely contributed quite a bit, and we'll get into that. Without a doubt. The whole, and obviously, I mean, social media and content that gets put out there and all that kind of good stuff, it only tells a certain story that people want to put out there. But it definitely feels like, and it also like to, not only from what you guys put out there, but also the music itself and how everything kind of flows very naturally together on this album. It sounds like this band is, to use a very technical term, comfortable and in their stride, compared to, I mean, last time, I'm not dissing on Empyrean at all, but that was a moment of insane change, and a lot of people were figuring stuff out at that point. Is there some truth to that? Like, does this feel like the band kind of feels good where you're at right now?
Yeah, very, very much so. I totally agree with that. Last album, like, we felt good going into the last album too, but it was kind of different. It was like, even though we felt like personally confident about it, it was just a different era. Like, that was coming out of COVID. The band hadn't toured in years, hadn't released music in a while. The last album was like, we thought it sounded like a return to form type of album, but you never know what we're going to think, So yeah, and I think, for me personally, it's like I was brand new, had never been in a band like Fallujah. I was, concerned with not messing things up, like making a good first impression, all that. So like, we were good, but there was less like proof that things were going to go well. It's like we felt good about it, but you never know what's going to happen. This time we're like, things are obviously going well. We have a really good feeling about it. We have a great core lineup in the band now, between like me, Scott, and our new guitarist Sam, who this is his first album with us, but he's been touring with us since I joined. So it's like, it's basically like we joined together at the same time. I think with this one there was definitely a greater sense of confidence and comfort, like you said. I think we just knew that the music that we wanted to make was going to be in line with like what made sense for the band. So everything felt very natural going to this one. And speaking for myself, this is like probably the most like pure expression of the music that I love that I've ever like been a part of. And I think the other guys would probably say the same.
Now, one thing that you guys, and Fallujah has always had that, but on this album more so than ever, at least, in my humble opinion, Fallujah it will likely always be labeled as a tech death metal band, but there's a ton of atmosphere on this album. And when extreme metal bands are labeled as atmospheric, and maybe that's often more so in like black metal world or post black metal world, where atmospheric is a big thing these days. they're not always mutually exclusive, but like technicality and atmosphere don't always work well combined. How hard was keeping that balance where, like, you know, you don't want to be too technical or too show offy and too crazy from like stuff we can come up with, because that might kill the atmosphere that you're also building with this, you know, more psychedelic touch on this album. Sure. Was that, for me, that sounds extremely difficult to do. Like, is that hard?
It can be. I think that the way things worked out on this album, not to like undermine your question, but I think it was actually pretty easy for us to balance on this one.
Okay.
I think that the key, like, the sort of, not concept, but like I think the main goal we had in mind was something that accommodates both of those aspects of the band, which I think we were aiming for dynamics and contrast between parts. And so I kept pushing for the music to be the most technical it could be. Like, everybody's down for that, but I kept pushing for that. I was like, let's make the craziest guitar music ever, you know? And part of that is because I also wanted to do more singing and have more melodies, and like, while also not making the music feel like it's dumbed down or like trying to be more accessible, because that's really not the goal. I just enjoy melody and enjoy clean vocals and enjoy the atmospheric parts. And I think that it's just about the contrast of, like, when you have a melodic section, like, let it be melodic, and when you have like a really ambient atmospheric section, like, let it be that. But then when it's time to be heavy or technical, like, lean into that even more. And we tried to juxtapose those sections right up alongside each other a lot in order to make the music feel very dense and like fast paced, because it's something that is a common factor in a lot of the music that we love, is like exciting song structures and dynamics and a lot of contrast. And so I think that if your goal is to just have a lot of big changes and like big memorable differences from part to part in the songs, I think it totally gives you room to write each of those different types of parts, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe you want to restrain the technicality like in certain moments, but there's so many moments where the technicality can go off that it didn't feel like a sacrifice to hold back on the parts where it's time to hold back a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Now, also something that people will have vastly different answers to is, I mean, this is a concept album, and people that write concept albums, they either tell me, I love it, I always want to do a concept album, it helps me find the music when I know what the story needs to tell. And then just as many people tell me, I made a concept album and I will never, ever, ever make another concept album, because it just, you know, I feel either shackled in a way, or I'm just stuck so often, and whatever. For you, what was that experience like? Because this is, I mean, quite a unique story, but we are following a story here.
Yeah, 100%. I enjoy doing it. Like, it's not something that I always do, and I probably wouldn't do it for the next album. That's, you know, me kind of jumping the gun and thinking about it right now. But I enjoyed it. Like, I could see myself doing it again. Like, the reason I did it for this album, you know, I decided I wanted to make it a concept album before we even had any music for it, just because I really wanted, you know, again, like, this is my second album with Fallujah, and I wanted to take some steps right at the beginning to set it apart, you know, from the previous album, like help give it its own identity. And so I feel like we try to do that with the, you know, with the artwork, like the colors and the art, things like that. Like, don't want to repeat previous albums. Same thing, like with the lyrics and just overall vibe and identity of the whole project. Like, we just want it to have its own special place. And so to me, the fact that Fallujah hasn't really had a story-driven concept album, I was like, here's a way right off the bat to help give this album like a special identity, you know, in context of the discography. And it was challenging at times, but I enjoyed it. Like, I didn't hate it or anything like that. You know, I could see why it becomes overwhelming. But I enjoyed it for this one, and you know, I'll see how I feel on the next one. But probably by the nature of not wanting to repeat the same pattern like I did going into this album, I probably wouldn't make the next one a concept album.
Yeah. Now, I should know this, but do you, like, is writing a passion? Like, have you written stories before?
No, I actually, writing was like my most hated activity in school and stuff like that. I couldn't stand it. Any kind of creative writing, open-ended thing, just completely hated it. That was like by far what I struggled with the most. You know, if you're talking about like writing assignments, I guess, you know, like in other mediums outside of music. So I've never enjoyed it outside of that, but I do love writing lyrics, even though writing lyrics takes me a long time. Like it's not something that just flows out naturally for me, but it's something that I know how to chip away at until I'm happy with it. So it's like a long, kind of arduous process for me. But I do like love writing lyrics and having it done, even if it's like quite a chore to get there. Yeah, I've never really messed with writing outside of what I've done for my musical projects.
Does that also mean that there's no desire in you to take the same story beyond the musical art form? Like, is this something you would dream of having a live stage show or a comic book or movie, like stuff like that? Is that something that dares to seep in the back of your mind?
I can see it being cool. I mean, now because I already have this whole story written out, like it's in an abstract, lyrical way, but it's all there. We actually talked about doing a graphic novel. Like, I don't know if that'll happen or not. It's a pretty ambitious project to take on. But our label actually suggested it. It was their idea. And, maybe if we get everything together for that, we could pull it off. I would love to see it in some other format like that. I think a graphic novel would make the most sense because it's like the story... I can't imagine the story being so pinned down with like specific dialogue and stuff like that. So something more visually driven, I think, would make sense.
Okay. So for people that haven't had, obviously people haven't had the chance at this point to listen to the full album. I've had that chance, but I don't want to give away too much about the story because there are some twists and turns that should stay a surprise for people. But, It definitely feels like I'll say as a sci-fi story where different realities maybe come together. Again, I'm trying not to give any spoilers, but there are some themes that come out here in this story. Themes of deceit, corruption. Is this a true sci-fi, escapism, or is this really one big metaphor on socio-political situations?
I'll say that it is primarily to be taken at face value of being this kind of psychedelic sci-fi dreamlike journey. But intentionally, I do try to write in a way that's vague enough that does leave interpretation open in terms of parallels or metaphors for other things. But I will say that for the most part, I am taking it literally in sort of the journey of what this character is going through. But again, those themes, you're spot on with it. There's themes of sort of deception and betrayal and sort of moving on past those things, taking in your prior experiences and reconciling them with where you need to go moving forward. A lot of themes like that I think could connect to other, whatever people want to connect it with. And that's something I didn't want to, I wanted to write a sci-fi story, but I knew that I wanted it to feel emotional and personal at the same time. So didn't want to just talk about something purely scientific feeling, or just alien or something like that, I definitely wanted something that felt like people could have a personal connection with from the lyrics. So, hopefully managed to kind of tread that line.
All right. Now, people you're going to be playing a lot of shows, and people will come up to you and they'll tell you what their meaning of the story is. I'm sure people might do that during your set because you tend to walk through the crowd a little bit, unannounced when your colleagues are showing their technical skills on stage.
Well, see, that's the hard part is there's no instrumental tracks on this album. So normally that's my break. Normally that's I go watch the band and get another beer or whatever, I'll have to find time. Maybe we'll put together some live interludes or something, and that's when I can go have my crowd break.
There you go. Now, I've seen you play a few times in Toronto already, and on those shows, when you had your stroll through the crowd, I'd say that most people either didn't notice you were there, or when they do notice, they're kind of they're keeping a respectful distance almost. They don't want to seem to bother you too much. But I'm sure that doesn't always go that way. Have there been any unsurprising or surprising, unexpected interactions during your crowd walks?
I remember one. Because it's only been a recurring thing because we've done a few sets now with long instrumental songs. When we played the Empyrean album all the way through, there's a 7-minute instrumental track. And then last year when we played The Flesh Prevails all the way through, again, there's long instrumental tracks. So I have time to go out. I remember one time, which was like probably a mistake in hindsight, was we played a show in, I think it was Quebec City. It was somewhere in Canada, I think Quebec City, and it was like decently big venue, but like maybe halfway full, something like that. So the crowd is like there, but they're mostly up at the front.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of saying, I had my break and I was feeling all cocky halfway into the tour, and I was like, who wants to take a shot with me? Go meet me at the bar. And so I went down off the stage, and almost the whole crowd left the front.
Oh, no.
Go to the bar. So like, my bandmates were like, dude, everybody went back. Like, why did you say that? The whole front row is now like at the back of the venue, not watching the band. I'm like, yeah, maybe that was the wrong time. But it was fun. I thought it was funny. We all hung out, for a couple minutes.
There you go. There you go. Hey, good connections. Human connections. That's what people remember. In these last few years, there's no denying that Fallujah has completely taken over your life. Until recently, I don't know exactly when you made that change, but I think until recently, you still use the handle of, Kyle, archaeologist of your other band. I think it's safe to say that Fallujah is your number one priority at this point. And just as a bit of a, that sacrifice in a way that you have to make. Has that been tough?
Not really. It's so my other project, Archaeologist, is like my long-time personal project.
Yeah.
And basically, like it exists in a form that doesn't have to conflict that much with Fallujah. If anything, Fallujah is a boost for Archaeologist. I think it would be harder if Archaeologist existed as like a band of other guys that I was like letting down by not being around or having to like turn down tours or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, Archaeologist is like, most of the time it's my solo project, except for when we do a rare live show and get some other guys together to play, stuff like that. So it's actually pretty easy to have it exist in between Fallujah responsibilities. So I'm going to be releasing some stuff later this year for Archaeologist. Got a couple songs coming here and there. Still managed to squeeze in Archaeologist shows like once in a blue moon. But it hasn't been too bad. If anything, if anything, it's a boost. Like I'm sure that a lot more people know Archaeologists now than did before, specifically because of the exposure that Fallujah brings. And I love Fallujah. It's like, it's fun doing both for sure.
Yeah. Now, we know that you definitely weren't dreaming as a kid to become a writer in school, but given the name of your other project, like, were you dreaming of being Indiana Jones when you were 12 years old?
No, not really. No, I just, I think I remember when I was trying to choose a band name for Archaeologist, it was basically just, I wanted something that started with A, so I could be at the top of people's iTunes, back in the day. I wanted something that was just like one word, but kind of looked cool aesthetically, like just the letters, just the visual of it. I wanted to look cool. And I wanted something that wasn't taken. And just even having those goals, like there's not a lot of options, like every cool name is taken. So when I found a name like Archaeologist that, I didn't have like a connection with archaeology, but I was just like, that's a cool word. And look, somehow it's not taken. Let's snag that one,
There you go. Awesome.
I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was a kid. That was my, that's what I would have told you when I was 12.
Okay.
Aquarium.
Well, there you go. The seeds for the next concept album of Fallujah are already there. There's something that you can do there, and then you can have another cool artwork from Peter Moorbacher, who, I mean, this artwork is just phenomenally beautiful. And although Peter has been getting some more traction, I mean, he did a really cool Blind Guardian album as well, the last one. Still somewhat of a unknown player, if you will, in the world. Usually underrated, because he's done a couple now for Fallujah, and they're always really beautiful. What was that? Were you at all involved with that as well, with the communication with Peter on what you guys were looking for?
Oh yeah. So this art was a pre-existing piece that he had, like in his portfolio, available for licensing, which is how that's how all of the Fallujah album covers that have used his art have come about. So rather than like commissioning a piece up front, he has so much art that he's made. Like the recurring theme is a lot of it is these like angelic looking beings, environments that have sort of I've realized sort of become synonymous with the Fallujah vibe to a lot of people. Like they expect the floaty guy on the album cover in space. But yeah, he had a lot of different art to choose from, and we discussed as a band like pretty early on that like okay, we'll do another Peter Moorbacher piece for this album, and then we'll see if we do for the next one or not, because we don't want to pin ourselves down too much with like always having like a floaty guy in space on the album cover. But we're like, one more won't hurt, and he has so much cool art still available. We decided we were going to go with Peter Moorbacher for this album. While browsing through all of his stuff, there were a bunch that we liked. Like we had a group chat with like probably 30 or 40 like different pieces we were looking at, that were available. And without discussing it, I had really become set on this one. Like just something about it. Like we had some really rough instrumental demos at the time. Something about the colors and feeling of this one just connected for me way more than any other art he had. But I didn't say that. I hadn't said that yet. And then our guitarist Sam one day in the chat was like, guys, like I think like I keep going back to this one. I think this one we need to do. And it's the same one that I had in mind too. And I'm like, dude, it's got to be that one. Like we just simultaneously agreed without even discussing it. Kind of both somehow decided that this was the one out of all of his amazing art that like fit the stuff we were doing. So yeah, it's just a beautiful piece. And we actually chose it early enough in the process that it heavily influenced my story. Like so we had the album artwork first, and I had a very vague idea for the concept.
Right.
And to me, I worked it into where that album cover is like, this isn't like Peter Moorbacher didn't sign off on this. This isn't how he imagined the character. But to me, that is the character in the story. Like the album cover is what the narrator sees when he basically wakes up in the like afterlife at the beginning of the first song. That is like he meets this sort of guiding angelic figure that sort of takes him on the journey as the story unfolds. And so it kind of worked out in a cool way where like it almost acts as if it were commissioned, like it's in reverse, but it's like, to me, that album cover is part of the story, and that is literally a scene from the story.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. Well, Kyle, it's gonna be another busy year for you. I mean, it hasn't slowed down since you joined the band, but it's super cool for this album to come out and all the fans to dive into the story and figure out all the curveballs that you will throw at them along the way. And then we can't wait to see how this album comes to life on a stage and how you're going to bring that. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to the next time seeing you on the stage.
Thank you, man. Great talking to you again.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.